Man, what a fun day 2 of the draft last night. Appreciate everyone coming out to my live stream. Day 3 is just about to go underway in actually 40 minutes from when I'm recording this at 12 Eastern. But in today's video, I want to break down and give my thoughts and break down every player the Packers drafted yesterday, from Luke Musgrave to Jayden Reed and Tucker Kraft. So for the first pick in the second round of the night, obviously the Packers had 2 second-round picks. At pick 42, they selected tight end Luke Musgrave from Oregon State, and he was one of the guys that I thought was very intriguing to go to the Green Bay Packers. Now, a lot of people were annoyed because Darnell Washington was on the board. He fell all the way into the 3rd round, I think, due to ankle issues, and they're 2 very different types of tight ends, and the Packers addressed tight end 2 times last night, which I think is awesome. This is a very deep tight end class, so for the Packers to go right in last night and attack that tight end position, probably their weakest position group on the team. I love that, getting 2 very different type of tight ends, but also they're really good in their own ways. So first, Luke Musgrave, you're buying into the athleticism and the frame of what he could be. I feel like nowadays, a lot of the tight ends that end up being really good in the NFL, a lot of them didn't have crazy good production in college. So you don't necessarily need that to see a player that, could become a very good tight end in the pros. And that's exactly what Luke Musgrave is, right? There's going to be some development time here, and that's fine. The Packers are not in a win-now situation right now, so getting someone like Luke Musgrave with a ton of upside and a really, really high ceiling, I think is an excellent pick at 42. Looking at his RAS here, this guy is the definition of an athlete. It's actually very scary, his frame to speed ratio. He had a 9.78 RAS. He's 6'5", almost 6'7". He ran a 4.61 40 at 6'5", almost 6'7". That's insane. And also had a very good 10-yard split, 1.54, which gives him a 9.87 grade at that. So he gets off the line extremely quick for a tight end. Then if we look at his explosion grade, also a 36-inch vertical at almost 6'6". That's super athletic with a broad jump as well at 10'5". Decent agility grades there. He has a good grade overall for agility, a shuttle at 4.41 and 3-cone at 7.09. So as I said, the main concern with Luke Musgrave was the lack of production at Oregon State. Didn't really have much. If we bring up his PFF stats here, he only played in 2 games last year due to injury, but in those 2 games, he actually, for 2 games, 169 yards and a touchdown. That's really good for 2 games there. Then back in 2021, 13 games, only 304 yards and 1 touchdown. But he was very underused at Oregon State. That offense was very inconsistent. I feel like they just didn't know how to use this guy. If they had used him properly, I think his stats would show that. It would be more, elevated to that. Because Luke Musgrave, he is an athletic freak. He's really raw in the blocking category, but he's willing to do it. So if he gets coached up, I think he'll be an above average blocker at tight end. I mean, he has the physicality for it and the frame. He was the only tight end at the Senior Bowl to clock in at 20 plus miles per hour. So I think even at 4.61, that's kind of an understatement. I think he is faster than 4.61 at 6'6", which, just thinking about that is extremely scary. He's a great receiving threat tight end. You can play him in line, you can play him in the slot. As we see, where he played in 13 games in 2021, he had 177 snaps in line and 113 in the slot. He probably should have had more in the slot. And again, that circles back to Oregon State really not understanding how to use him. Luke Musgrave is going to be a very versatile move type of tight end, something the Packers have been missing out on since Jermichael Finley. I was praying that they went out and got an extremely athletic receiver type tight end that can go deep, can take the top off a defense, can go up the seam and catch balls over smaller defenders, which he does also really well at. He was great in contested catch situations. He's a crisp route runner, and he has soft hands. I'm really happy with this pick, especially considering the Packers double dipped at tight end, which we'll get into Tucker Kraft after the next guy here. Super happy with the pick. Guy's a complete athlete. We know the Packers love their athletes. It might take a little bit of time for him to develop, but that is totally okay, because if this guy reaches his ceiling or even close to it, look out. So for the Packers' second pick in the second round, they originally were supposed to select at 45, then they traded down to 48, and then they traded down to 50. Now the result of that was picking up an extra 5th round and a very early 6th round. The value was really nice there to get an extra 5th and 6th round to now that they have 9 picks upcoming for this day 3 of the draft. And they selected Jayden Reed, wide receiver out of Michigan State at number 50. And I'm going to be completely honest, I had a lot of people above him, and, not that means anything. And at first, I was a bit confused. I didn't really have a 2nd round grade on this guy, And I think I was ignorant in doing that, because after doing my actual research, because honestly, it was just because I didn't really do that much research on the guy. I didn't watch any tape of him. Honestly, it was a guy I just kind of brushed over because he was a smaller frame, 5'11", and the Packers normally don't draft guys like that. But after doing the research, after the pick was made last night, Jayden Reed has really grown on me. I think this guy is one of the most complete wide receivers in this draft class. And if you look at his Senior Bowl tape, he was probably the best wide receiver in Senior Bowl. No one could really stop this guy. He's an all-around, really shifty, fast wide receiver, and he can generally just play ball. The numbers don't speak enough for Jayden Reed. Like, if we look at his RAS here, it's normally not something you would think the Packers would draft. A 6.74 RAS, 5'10", almost not even 5'11", so he's actually lower than 5'11", 187 pounds. Ran a 4.45. I think he's faster than that. I think this guy might be in the 4.3s on the field. So he's a great speed. He has great 20-yard split, great 10-yard split. He only did a shuttle, which was okay at 4.29. Low vertical, 33.5. But, you know, a guy that's 5'10", you don't really need you're not going to be throwing jump balls to him anyways. And a nice broad jump at 10'1". And man, just bringing up a couple clips of him here real quick from Senior Bowl. This dude's burst off the line is like none other. I'm going to play this clip a few times here. Just getting that release on that press coverage reminds me a lot of Devontae Adams. And, you know, the guy does remind me a lot of early young Randall Cobb, another second-round wide receiver under 6 foot. This guy is most likely going to be our slot wide receiver, but he does offer some inside-out versatility. The release off the line there, man, that's just chef's kiss. Then we have another clip here, him running a post corner. Does a really good job getting off the ball, stemming inside, head turn, shoulders towards the post, breaking it back out to a corner, and still makes a wonderful contested catch right over the defensive back's shoulder. Defensive back did a really good job playing this, and still Jayden Reed made the score and made the play. Really nice there, turning his hips and his shoulders and his head, faking that post corner. Really, really nice here. Stemming inside, getting off the line, super, super quick. Right here, boom, turning his hips, turning his shoulder, turning his head, selling that post. You got the DB flipped. He cuts it back outside to a corner. Excellent route here. Jayden Reed has all the tools, and honestly, you know, my initial reaction, I was kind of shocked, and rightfully so. Like, I didn't have the guy ranked high. Obviously, my rankings mean nothing, but going back into this, he has grown on me a ton. And one more clip from him from the Senior Bowl. He's out in the slot here. He's going to run a slot fade, a 9 route, an outside coverage here. And he still gets the outside of this cornerback, kind of does a little half hez, and just turns the burners on and completely dusts this guy in the Senior Bowl. Jayden Reed, man, blew up the Senior Bowl, and we should have saw it coming. I should have saw it coming. The Packers love those type of players that go into the Senior Bowl, have a ton of experience, and are the best players at Senior Bowl. And Jayden Reed was probably the best wide receiver at the Senior Bowl. So if we bring up his stats at PFF here, last year he played in 11 games, 636 yards, 5 touchdowns. That Michigan State offense was really bad last year, so that's not really much to go off of there. 2021, a better season. 13 games, he had 59 receptions for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. So, like I said, the numbers don't speak enough for Jayden Reed. He plays a lot better than his RAS shows and the numbers show it. This guy is going to be one of the quarterback's best friends type of wide receiver. You throw him in the slot. As we see here, he didn't have many slot snaps the last 2 years. He mainly played out wide, but his freshman year in 2020, he mainly played in the slot and had 407 yards and 3 touchdowns, doing so in only 7 games. The Packers can use him in many different ways, but I think his primary role in the Green Bay offense will be at slot wide receiver. Jayden Reed simply just knows how to play ball. Like I said, I was wrong on my initial look into him. I was like, oh gosh, why did the Packers draft this guy low RAS? And that's just me looking at the numbers. That's before looking into the tape. Obviously, I still was going to do that, and it completely changed my initial thought on this drafted player. A lot of people had him sneaking up into the second round and one of the most complete wide receivers, and that's exactly what happened. I am super excited to see this guy in the Green Bay offense. I think a lot of people that don't like this pick will soon like this pick a lot once the season starts and once this guy gets on the field. And the final pick of the night, they stayed put in round 3 at pick 78, selecting tight end Tucker Kraft from South Dakota State, a guy I mocked to the Green Bay Packers a lot. I loved Tucker Kraft in the 3rd round. That value was awesome. Some people even had him in the 2nd round. They thought he was a 2nd round value tight end, and most years he would be. This tight end class is just so very deep. So like I said, I love that the Packers attacked that tight end position. It's one of the most deep tight end classes in draft history. It's really, really deep at tight end. So to get 2 guys in day 2, I think is going to change that whole tight end room. And adding Tucker Kraft to Luke Musgrave, I absolutely love this pick. This guy is an all-around awesome tight end, great blocker, extremely strong, and still a very nice receiver. We see here his RAS, also an athlete, a 9.68. He's 6'4", almost 6'5", so a little bit on the shorter side, 254, but 23 bench reps. This dude is strong. A 4.69 40, a nice 20-yard split, a nice 10-yard split, really good shuttle of 4.29, 34-inch vertical, and 10-foot 2 broad jump. Bringing up his stats at PFF, we see last year he played in 9 games, had some injuries last year, 348 yards, 3 touchdowns. The year before that, played in all 15 games, 770 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Last year only had 2 drops. As we see here, he mainly plays inline tight end, but he can jump out to the slot, but you're not going to need him to. That's why you have Luke Musgrave. Both of these guys offer like different things for this offense, because let's face it, we had Josiah DeGuara, who I do believe in, but he's that H-back, fullback type of tight end. They drafted him for that. He's not an inline guy. You can play him there. You can definitely do it. He's not a slot guy. Again, you can kind of play him there, but now they won't have to. They have DeGuara they can use as H-back, maybe on the line in some occasions, but they have Tucker Kraft at tight end to play their inline, and they have Luke Musgrave who can play inline and slot. I'm really, really excited for this tight end room this year and for the future. Honestly, I had Tucker Kraft as the 2nd or 3rd best blocking tight end in this entire draft class. I would say Darnell Washington was probably number 1, and Tucker Kraft and Michael Mayer were like kind of tied for me with number 2 for a blocking tight end. But for an all-around tight end, he was definitely up there. The fact that he's a great pass blocker, a really great run blocker, he's a mauler in the run game. This dude is just super strong. I mean, he's going to blow up defensive backs on run plays. I'm super excited for him being our new inline tight end, with Musgrave as more of that move receiver-esque type of tight end. And Tucker Kraft can do that too. You can move him to the slot. You can move him out wide. So much inside-outside versatility in this day 2 with Jayden Reed, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave. All these guys super versatile. Like I said, I think Jayden Reed will mainly play slot. Musgrave will be the move tight end. Tucker Kraft will be the inline guy. DeGuara will be that H-back type. So happy they addressed offense in day 2, and the past like 5 years they really do always address offense in day 2, but for this year they had 3 picks and they went back to back to back offense to start loading up this offense for Jordan Love, and I'm so glad they went 2 tight ends and wide receiver. Now in day 3 they can address other positions such as safety. Anthony Johnson's still there's a couple other safeties as well that are nice, and on offense they could go offensive line. Somehow DeJuan Jones has fell. There's Nick Salvadori out of Old Dominion, another tackle. So Packers have 9 picks. They're probably going to move around day 3. It's actually just about to start here in a little bit, so I think they're going to move around. I don't think they're going to select all 9 guys. Expect a backup quarterback, maybe expect a kicker, expect a couple defensive backs, probably another wide receiver, 1 to watch out for, 2 to watch out for, I'd say. Dontavian Wicks and Andre Iosivas, 2 guys that I feel like scream Green Bay Packers. So I think the Packers could definitely double dip into wide receiver, and they could even go for a 3rd tight end, someone like Josh Wiley, who they have visited with out of Cincinnati. They could definitely go for a 3rd tight end, saying like the 6th or 7th round there. But if they do decide to go for a 3rd tight end and it's Zach Kuntz, that'll just be absolutely awesome to have those 3 tight ends. Like, I couldn't write it up any better. Like I said, I'm super happy with day 2 of the draft. I learned a little bit on Jayden Reed. I was a little shocked by the pick, but I think a lot of us were that didn't know about Jayden Reed, right? It was my ignorance to not know about Jayden Reed, because this guy is a ball player and I'm super excited for him. But that about does it for this video. Like I said, excited for day 3. I'll make videos on the guys they end up drafting here after that. So appreciate everyone watching. If you go down and hit subscribe if you're a new viewer here, I'd really appreciate it. Also leave a like on the video. But I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.